Okay friends, one of the first things we have to do to get started on our job is to safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. After that, remove all of your lug nuts and then remove the wheel. To remove the caliper, we're going to move along to removing these slider pins right here. Let's use our 3/8 Allen head bit. Let's carefully push back our caliper piston. Remove your caliper. Set this aside, putting no pressure on your flex hose. Remove your rotor. Before we can get the rotor on here, we need to clean up the mating surface of the bearing itself. You can use a wire brush, or if you have one of these, go ahead and use that. Now let's go ahead and clean up the areas right along here. There's one there and one right there. This is where the caliper is going to ride, and you need to make sure it's free of obstruction. Once you have your entire hub cleaned down, let's continue on with some copper never sees. All right, now it's time to get our rotor on here. Go ahead and put it on. I'm going to use one of my lug nuts, snug it up on there just so the rotor can't move around and rust can possibly fall in between this area and cause a brake pulsation. Now it's going to be time to get our pads off of the caliper. Go ahead and separate this here right here. Inspect your caliper and clean the caliper. If you have any debris that looks like this, go ahead and get it out of there. The next thing we're going to do is fully depress our caliper piston into the caliper itself. You can do that with a tool that looks like this. We're just going to carefully come in right like that, and then we'll gently squeeze this in. The next thing we're going to do is try to punch out these sliders right here. A lot of times they're going to be stuck right inside the caliper, but you want to make sure that they can actually physically slide in there. You can use a punch, pry bar, whatever you've got. Now that we have the sliders out of there, we want to make sure that we at least clean these down. You can tell on this one right here, I have a lot of gunk and debris. This could restrict the movement of the caliper itself and cause a braking issue. Let's go ahead and clean this down, do the same to the other, and then we can re-lubricate. Let's go ahead and coat this slider pin right here with some lubricant. Just going to take that, slide it right in. Make sure it functions freely. Let's use some more of that caliper grease. We're going to go along each of these ears, right along where the pad's going to sit. And then we'll do the piston as well. The reason for that is vibration dampening and noise reduction overall. Now it's going to be time to install our brand new pads. This one right here is the inboard pad. Has a little clippy do there that slides into the piston itself. Now it's time to install the outboard pad. You're going to notice that you have a couple little dimples on this. You want to make sure that those dimples fit onto the caliper ears. There we are. Make sure it's completely situated. If it's off a little bit, it could sit at an angle and you could have braking issues. We also want to make sure we clean up our slider bolts. Once you have the bolts cleaned down, let's continue with some lube. You just want to go on this shanked area right along here. Do the same on both. Now let's carefully slide the caliper over this. Slide it into place. Time for the caliper mounting bolts. Start them both in, we'll snug them up, and then we'll torque them to 25 foot-pounds. Start on all your lug nuts, snug them up, and then we'll torque them. Okay, once you have them all started on there, go ahead and get your wheels safely back on the ground, and then we'll torque all of the lug nuts to 120 foot-pounds. Torqued. All right, we got the truck all back together. What's left to do now? Safely take your vehicle for a road test down to your local alignment shop.